Positive Lens Podcasts. I'm your host, Scott T. Each week, we will bring you positive law enforcement news stories from across the globe, shared by departments and citizens like yourself. In our Getting to Know Your Local Leo segment, we will speak with a member of the law enforcement community about everyday life and most things non-law enforcement, as we hope to adjust your focus so you see that members of your local law enforcement community are not much different than you and me.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 38. I'm your host, Scott T. I'm sorry for sounding a bit froggish today, but I'm a little under the weather. However, in this episode, we're going to share some great recognition and extraordinary stories of officers providing tremendous service. One of them is a rescue that likely saved the lives of two profoundly deaf women, and another is an act of service that saved the mom a lot of grief and restored her faith. It actually may be the first time many of us have heard of such an act of service by a police officer. So let's get started. We'd first like to recognize Officer Brad Schroeder of the Deerfield Police Department in Deerfield, Illinois. His act of service happened several weeks back on January 22nd, but his recognition and life-saving award was only recently announced. Back on January 22nd, 2026, Officer Schroeder responded to a call about a male believed to be experiencing cardiac arrest, and the man's son was performing CPR on his dad when he arrived. Officer Schroeder administered the use of an AED machine and continued performing CPR on the gentleman until the Deerfield Bannockburn Fire Department arrived. His immediate rush to action not only saved this man's life, but the man was up, mobile, the same day, walking and talking. It's amazing. But that's not the only amazing thing about this story. It's not just the saving of this gentleman's life, or the collaboration between the police department and the fire department, but Officer Schroeder's ability to excel under pressure situations. We understand this is the 8th life Officer Schroeder has saved. I guess you could say if you're in need of life-saving care, it seems we all should have Officer Schroeder on speed dial. Once again, congratulations Officer Brad Schroeder of the Deerfield Police Department on your life-saving award and excellent service to your community. I also want to recognize the Deerfield Bannockburn Fire Department for the continued administering of life-saving measures on this man and wonderful collaboration between the departments. Our next story comes from the New Zealand Police and is truly a remarkable rescue and potentially life-saving event of two profoundly deaf women. Generally speaking, profoundly deaf means having a very severe hearing impairment where one hears little to no sound even with the use of hearing aids, and often requires them to rely on visual communication such as sign language or even lip reading. Well, Constable Courtney Robertson was already responding to the needs of individuals stuck from flooding waters on State Highway 1 when he saw a Mazda de Mayo essentially floating on the opposite lane. When he yelled out to the individuals in the car, they did not respond. So after circling back and navigating waters that were thigh-high, he discovered the ladies in the car were both profoundly deaf. It would already have been challenging enough to be trapped in a car that is getting flooded. But can you imagine being trapped in a flooding car and not being able to hear or communicate with anyone? When the officer arrived at their vehicle, the car had water up to the windowsill and still rising. Constable Robertson indicated that would have been mid-chest high if you were sitting in the car. One of the women in the car was on a video call with her daughter, who had actually explained the challenges that they were having, so Constable Robertson had to understand. Now, he also learned, though, that one of the women had just had a knee replacement. I mean, talk about a challenging situation. But the great thing was the constable and another, as they called it, young fella, Ricky, as he'd been described and stopped to assist, were able to get both women out of the car and to safety. They even were able to get the car out of the water after rescuing the women. But it doesn't really just end there. Constable Robertson took his service to another level, as he not only rescued the women, but he took them to Topa Hospital and upon release, let them stay at his mother's house for the night as she was away. The daughter of one of the women believes Constable Courtney Robertson is a humble hero, as she expressed how scary it was to receive a FaceTime call from her mom signing what was happening, but with really no way to truly help her. This is truly a remarkable story that illustrates a tremendous service level of policing, from the rescue to the care and eventually the follow-up. We'll include a link in the show notes for you to read the entire story. We would just like to say thank you to Constable Courtney Robertson of the New Zealand Police. Not enough words can express the gratitude the families must feel for the efforts you took to assist these ladies, and we cannot express how much we appreciate your service to your community. Amazing and outstanding work. This final story comes to us from Slidell, Louisiana, in the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office. Typically, when one is contending with a clogged toilet, the Sheriff's Department is not the answer. But in this wild story, they were the only available option. Around 11 p.m., a mom of 3, ages 2, 4, and 6, had a toilet that stopped working. She had been home with the children all day. And for those of us who have children, especially at those young ages, or have had them in the past at those young ages, know that entertaining a group of children, as much as we love them, can be overbearing at times. Well, when she reached for help with her clogged toilet, no one was available. No family, no friends, no plumbers. So she hopped in a car and drove around looking for help. That's when she found Sergeant Will McIntyre pulling into the district office for a quick break. She took her chance. Even though she knew it was not a police emergency, she jumped out of her car, was crying, and Sergeant McIntyre read the situation well. It was a great night to be slow, and after checking in with his lieutenant, he went to Miss Tyson's house, armed to solve the issue, using a plunger, hose, and any other dad trick he learned over the years. He was quoted as saying, "I didn't fix it, but I sure gave it hell." But fixing the toilet was not the win. The journey to assist one in need, provide compassion when others did not, restoring faith, and showing that police is not about just making arrests, but being there for members of the community. Miss Tyson stated, "Before I saw him, I felt like nobody was on my side. He was. He didn't have to do that. I know he didn't clock in and plan on working on someone's toilet, but he just knew I needed help." This is really an example of serving the community. I cannot recall any previous stories we have heard over the years of an officer plunging toilets for a member of their community. Not to say it didn't happen, I just haven't heard it yet. But congratulations, Sergeant McIntyre, for making a profound difference for Mrs. Tyson. You truly embody the call for service and restored her faith. I'd like to also note that Sergeant McIntyre did follow up a couple days later and learn the issue had been resolved. While we have no confirmation on what the culprit was, my guess, a kid's toy. Once again, we'd like to congratulate Officer Brad Schroeder of the Deerfield Police Department for his life-saving award and astonishing 8th life saved. As we mentioned in the beginning, these two stories are truly remarkable, and while entirely different, Constable Robertson of the New Zealand Police and Sergeant McIntyre of the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office exemplify the highest levels of service to the members of their respective communities. Amazing work to all those within the respective departments and those who supported the efforts of these men. As always, we thank the men and women of the global law enforcement community for protecting our citizens and their continued efforts to make our streets and towns safer.
If you liked this episode, follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Provide us your feedback in the comments and leave us a rating or review. We truly appreciate your opinion. And then follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook to get all the latest updates. Remember, you can always find places that will share negative law enforcement news stories, but here At Your Positive Lens, you will only find your positive law enforcement news stories. Once again, I'm your host, Scott T. Thanks for listening, and we'll capture you on the next Your Positive Lens.